launches out and gets out of the back end of the fight. As Ice and Sheo getting chased down by this angry, light-eating monster. No wonder Vedi played it. It cleans house.
BQ, triple Q.
Nice, well played.
Well played, Sheo, baby. Nice mind.
Oh my god, well played.
Well played, guys. Okay, guys. They're really bad, okay?
I think, yeah.
They can only win by chasing level 1 and shit like this, so let's be careful of Level 1.
Level 1 was... It's okay, it's okay.
Welcome back to the desk as BDS opens up the score with some strong words here against SK 1-0 in the series. Finn, you had some arguments for BDS on top of what Adam just said right now. Anything you want to comment on here?
I mean, everything I said kind of came true. We had a great objective control. Despite the rough early game, we had the really good team fighting from the Labrov and the Sheo, and we also had Adam, despite laning, always being more useful than irrelevant. So I think it all came true in my prophecy.
It's crazy how BDS came back to being the team they were at the beginning of the year, fumbling the early game completely to clutching some team fights.
Yeah, I think it's a big change compared to where we saw them last week. And I think a lot of it does rest on how they drafted this week as well. Because last week we saw Ice being put in this really weird hole of MF, Jhin, and Ziggs. And what we said then and what we've talked about this entire week was, why don't you just put Ice on a carry? And obviously Ezreal, one of the best carries in the game right now, picked up early here by BDS, and then they could form this composition around him where he has two good frontline tanks, he has some CC, and he has the ability to pop off in fights. And even though he wasn't the one making the flashy plays, he was definitely the one cleaning up.
Yeah, and no one could touch him, actually, Finn, when you look at the later stages of the game. I would like you to tell me why it makes sense to see BDS on a composition like this, but also on the side of SK, we like the approach in the early game, but could it take them much further than this?
I mean, obviously, with when you draft the Rumble, he's going to have a lot of control, and I think actually Relevant had a really good laning phase. He actually put a lot of pressure, pulled Sheo top, so he could get leads on the other side of the map. But we have this come from BDS, where they have the double tank and double tank, double carry, and support. Yeah. So basically, whoever, as long as the Cassio and Ezreal are not playing together on the same area, then they can only combo one of them. So hopefully the other guy will carry. And I think they kind of showed it pretty well, despite being behind early.
Yeah, they really did. I think when you look at the game, it's kind of split into two halves, right? You have before the third dragon fight and after the third dragon fight. And what we saw was SK, when they could set up first on an objective and have BDS walking into them, a lot of the time they could find these good engages. They could put the paranoia down, Luon could find a good flank with the Rahel. But as soon as that started collapsing, the team doesn't have enough CC and is too squishy to deal with the carries on the side of BDS.
Yeah, and I really felt that when BDS wasn't panicking around its objectives and actually took their time to walk up, they checked every bush with the Ezreal Q, the Rakan slowly whittled his way in, then they actually had these even positions where their comp can execute as they want. Because as we saw in the first Herald fight, they actually just panicked and just rushed in. The Rahel got a really massive engage on the Rumble ult and the entire comp fell apart.
I want to take a look at this fight actually, the fight on grabs in the early game, because when I look at BDS, it really felt like they were spectating their early game, but I'm guessing you're not worried when you know you're going to be able to play around SK's weaknesses later on. Tell me about this fight.
I mean, I think they were pretty worried in the early game, I'll be honest, Laure. Like, you could see here, they were stepping forward thinking, we can contest. They did this at one of the earlier Drakes as well, but because of the paranoia, SK just had so many options to funnel them in. Put the equalizer down, you get the slow, the Magnet Storm follows up, you can't see the Rahel engaging. So when BDS were kind of funneling themselves in, when they were stepping into these choke points, it became so much easier for SK to find fights like this.
Funnel really is the right word. It's like a sink where the water just torpedoes down. It was just like all went into the same area and all the AoE hit at the same time and they just all got one-shots.
And it's crazy, as you said it, Medic, there was two sides of the coin this game. The SK early game and BDS taking the agency, and it just took one fight for them to reverse everything and grab the control of this game. And GB is going to tell us all about this.
I certainly am. Maybe it should have been Finn talking about all these strengths over here for BDS, but I'll do him a favor and go through it myself. So as they rightfully broke down already, SK were ahead in the early game, and they probably should have used their early game lead a lot better. But in a certain dragon fight, they're not really using their objective control that great. First of all, let's have a look at all the vision that SK has gotten themselves around this Drake right now with a leading position. That's it right now. That ward right there is all they currently have going for them. But if you, on the other hand, look at all the vision that BDS have been able to get for themselves, they have two great wards right here to know where the SK members are going to be. Even though Irrelevant has his own pink ward, they've already seen him walk through into the bush, so they know he's around over here. They also have very good vision on Luon to know which direction he's going to go in. But more importantly as well, the main guy I want you to look at is going to be Labrov. So what do we do in a situation like this, where you are suddenly the one who needs to find the engage? You could try and go around, but you got Irrelevant who's going to cover that. Or you could utilize Adam to use him as your E-target and then actually go for the team fight itself. So as we play it out, you can see that SK has already forfeited so much of the Dragon area. Adam is just putting them away. Labrov not on vision until the last moment, and here we go. The fight comes through, Luon goes in, he was on vision the entire time. And although there is a paranoia, it kind of looks like SK is the team who's gotten paranoia on them right now. You have 3 members over here who's not able to do anything, and Luon's all by himself in the middle of it all. So even though SK was the team with a gold lead, who had the tools to initiate a fight, they gave up all the space around this Drake, and it eventually ended up with being BDS just cleaning them up. So that hard work that SK had been spending in the early game of using Irrelevant's lead in the top side, of using Nuke with no flash from the early game and then killing him to getting grobs, just did not matter. So going into the future now for SK, what we really like to see is some better team fighting tools for them to allow themselves to set themselves up for success around these objectives. Now, it is time to find out how SK can come back in this series, so casters, take it away.
Thank you very much, GB. Nice breakdown. I mean, we didn't have to wait too long in that first game, or at least the start of the series, for BDS to open up with their trademark team fight. Very unlike you still waiting for an apology from Mark. That's Vedius. This is Dagda. I'm Hysterics, and we're going to roll you into our second game and hopefully see an adaptation from SK.
We just...
well, the problem was, I mean, we had a much more fun intro where I wasn't pushing, I was pulling Vedi in.
Oh.
And I'm, without alluding to too much more, I'm going to save that because one day I will do that. It involved the fishing rod, and I'm very sad that we couldn't do it.
You're a strange individual.
Well,
Which is a fascinating statement coming from the King of Cringe over here.
are you the king of cringe?
Well, I used to be.
I don't think you're that weird, Betty. You're
In any case, Misfortune not taken off the board. Zeri and Rel going to be banned from SK. So that respect is clearly there towards Labrov, but his Rakan still had a huge impact in some of the crucial fights for BDS in the previous game, so we'll see if he prioritizes that. When we look at some of the big picks, Rumble is once again, of course, open. BDS have already showcased that they're happy to let that one go. Ezreal and Maokai were what they prioritized in the previous game. So what will the focus here be from BDS?
I personally like the Ezreal priority because I feel like it just slots so well into every comp. Quite strong, but it's like, if you want to go for dive, cool, I've got self-peel. If the enemy is going for dive, cool, I can excuse me, sorry, get away from that. I can set myself up so easily as the Ezreal, but we'll have to see what that priority is going to be as the Maokai is taken away. It's going to be the Sejuani instead.
Well, with the Maokai ban, I think that makes a lot of sense. Sheo is really fulfilling that role of I'm utility.
Yeah.
And one of the big conversations we had about BDS was them shifting more towards having those AP carry junglers.
Yeah, Morgana, Zyra.
And BDS have clearly just said, you know what, our priority is making sure that we have a style that works for us. And this is a tried and true BDS style. So let's see how SK now respond. With the Rumble likely being locked in once again for Irrelevant, what will they look to pair up with it this time? Will it be the Lucian once more? Or instead, will they consider something like the Yone? Do they want to run the risk of blind picking a Yone? Maybe they just grab the Ezreal for themselves.
To me, what's crazy in this series is Ezreal, a good point to mention, is that we haven't seen the same, like, Zyra priority, the brand priority in jungle. A lot of other regions still picking that up. Now, remember, Aurora is globally disabled. That can't be picked up, so while there is a hover there, that can't be completed. But again, it's just been completely different priority overall. BDS now, we have to figure out where else they go next. We see Sejuani. Do we see Adam on a Renekton? Something that is also usually banned away in the first phase.
I think I'd like to see them go and take the Ashe, yeah, for Ice, because that was banned away in that first game. Incredibly strong pick from. And then you take your support here. Leona could work out relatively well if you want to, but there is also an option to just go straight for the Cassante and say, hey, look, we're just going to guarantee that matchup on the top side, rather than SK Gaming being able to ban it away on the next rotation.
I think back to the previous bans with the Azir Victor. In hindsight, I probably would have just foregone the Victor and just prioritized the Cassante. Like, we were talking about it on draft and we considered it. Surprised that SK didn't really consider it. I guess from a relevance perspective, he played the matchup extremely well, and the Cassante wasn't necessarily a problem, so maybe they don't really worry about it. But the Corki being locked in is a very safe mid lane option for BDS. Also makes a lot of sense when we think about how Nuke's been playing so far this split. Question is, how do SK want to run out? Do they want to lock in their support? Maybe the Leona? Analyst looks like that's the direction that they're going to go. So now they can pitch the pool of supports even more, or they can pitch top lane. The question is, what do they think is a greater threat? I think, personally, you should ban away supports. Get rid of something like the Rakan, and I think Braum.
How are you going to ban away Adam as well, by the way? That's another point to consider when that dude has a champion Ocean.
Yeah, I think Nautilus could also be a good ban, just a point-and-click CC. Also a good answer into Leona in a lot of matchups, so potential for that to be the takeaway. But I agree with Betty, just Alistar, yeah, just getting comfort on that bottom side for Rahel and Luon is always going to be great.
Yeah.
And I think the reason is, in a lot of situations, you want to try and leave this Ezreal alone to unlock Luon on the bottom side, so getting rid of something like the Nautilus as that point-and-click CC just makes things significantly easier for yourself as SK.
Let's see what the... Okay, Renata's is also fine. Makes sense. I do think that BDS is likely going to lean towards an Alistar in this situation then. Maybe they get put off because Alistar into Ez is not that fun. Also, Alistar can be made very sad by things like Rumble. So maybe they're not too worried about it. We'll see though, because Labrov, he's very confident on his Alistar. In any case, the final mid lane ban, or will it be something else? BDS want to try and limit, it will be Azir. That makes the most sense, I think. But when I was looking at SK's composition, they're kind of missing... In this comp, you'd kind of want like a Maokai Azir, but with Maokai obviously banned away, they now need to think about what they do with the jungle. Dive, I don't think, should be the name of the game. Nocturne is not something I expect them to go for.
I mean, I could even see something like an Ivern Lucian or something along the lines here.
Ivern,
I think Lucian is still very, very strong, but Isma has been leaning more towards those tanks. Poppy, I don't think gets the best of value here, but is still pretty good for team fights, so looks like that's what SK are going to try and lean towards.
It does also deter Rakan, so we think about other support options, right? You're now like, ooh, what is a good support here with Ashe? Maybe you go something ranged, like a Lulu.
I think Nautilus is fine here.
Nautilus also, yeah, I agree with you. Nautilus is probably the safest. We talked about Alistar and how it is just a very big comfort pick for Labrov, but against the greater comp of SK, I question how effective it'll be.
Yep.
I definitely think that it's good into engages though, so when the Leona comes in, you're able to provide that peel and disengage. Oh, it's the Corki top.
It is indeed.
Hey.
So Adam getting some inspiration from Mirwin. And that's going to be the solution into the Rumble. Maybe we even see the early Hex Drinker from him. But it should be a relatively safe matchup in the top side.
And even though we don't usually think of Adam as like the AD carry top player, like he's only played one game of the ADTF, he's a massive AD lethality Kalista player in solo queue. So definitely used to playing these range top matchups, even if we haven't seen on the main stage yet. But the Smolder going to be brought in the mid lane. This is something we started to see creep up in a lot of the eastern regions and is very strong, especially if you can get a couple of those early stacks.
Especially if they can get through the laning phase of the bully Corki, and then you find to just, as you said, Dagda, stack up. So interesting again, this time SK Gaming. We've got double AD carry. We've got a lot of pace again, but I feel like a bit more options this time in the draft, if it's fair to say.
I think for SK, you definitely have the opportunity to play for like double ultimates with the Smolder and the Ezreal for some poke. You've got decent engage as well. Like you basically have this triple line with the Rumble, right? Which is going to work out quite well, I feel like, for team fights. You do have a lot of engage, but I think for BDS, you've got some good disengage. But I was actually a Cassiopeia swapping to the top.
Yeah, they've kept the top. They just... I assumed it was Nuke on the Cassio because that is a champion that we typically associate him with. But no, they've actually put Adam on the Cassio into the Rumble on the top side. I can visualize how that matchup would be quite advantageous to the Cassio because you typically do very well and bully effectively short-range champions. It can be a bit volatile in the early game just because of how much power Rumble has. But ultimately, I can see Cassio reaching a point where the Rumble is really going to struggle.
The big problem that I have with it, though, is you are very diveable. Like, if Isma ends up coming up there as a Poppy, you slam her into the wall, she doesn't have the escapes, it can very quickly start to teeter away in the enemy direction. So I'm a little nervous. If Adam can survive the laning phase, he's going to be fine. But if not, this could be a lane that explodes in favor of Rahel.
I mean, it's a huge flex now. If it does well for BDS, if they can make it through the rest of the tournament, there's going to be a lot of priority, maybe a lot of questions added to it as well. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our first Cassiopeia top in LEC history. Never before. Quickly as we get in game though, I need to remind you, if you're a master of the Rift and if you never want to miss a game, or at least
You never want to miss a game because Santander is here to reward you. You can head over to santandergaming.com to win weekly and monthly rewards like Nisqy here, who's about to die. Again? He should have gone to the website. Use the code Legend15 Nisqy. Phosphorus Bomb, auto attack. It's first blood over to BDS. Thank you, Santander.
But this time, Nisqy burns his flash and dies, so it's a repeat play from BDS of game 1, but they only come out even further ahead. Now, Ice did have to burn his own flash in the grand scheme of things, so Isma at least has a lane he can punish himself, but I think BDS have just put another target onto Nisqy's back.
Damn, BDS off to a strong start. It's one of the scariest things about Ashe level 1s. The slow is just terrifying. And BDS really looking to take advantage of that, and they find first blood onto Nisqy. Now a flashless Smolder. I would say with Corki, how scared? Probably not that scared because you got the flat once you get to level 3. I think the biggest problem with it is that Corki during the laning phase can be quite aggressive, can take some nice trades. Already you can see Nisqy relatively low HP.
Yeah.
And one of the things I like about Smolder top made a lot of sense to me, just because you get free stacks, right? Onto a lot of melee top laners, even if it's not like a super dominant lane, you just kind of get access to that scaling component much quicker. But into a Corki, I feel like you're going to see what you're seeing on your screen right now and just going to get bullied a lot.
Yeah, I found watching Rookie play this matchup from the LPL, basically the way he tried to play it was, look, level 1 and 2 sucked, but as you started to get later on, you could throw down the sneeze like that every time Nuke went in for it with the Gatling gun, and it meant that you could try and keep him at bay, so it kind of just became an auto attack war. The flap meant you were able to dodge away from some of the phosphorus bombs, so it is definitely a more defensive matchup. But if you're going to take that much upfront damage in the early stages, it's not really the way you want this to go, Nisqy.
You ever feel like when you listen to Smolder's abilities, you think it's like the designer let their 3 or 4-year-old child name the abilities, which is kind of cute, you know, that'd be good. What's this one called? Flap. Perfect. Isma going to start the invade off though with his top side, at least on the blue buff. And Sheo, there's no ward here. You can see that SK already knew that it wasn't touched and he's not in the area. Depends how quickly he can do it. Is Irrelevant. He's waiting in position to see if there's a counter.
Irrelevant not spotted on vision there. Obviously moved into Fog of War. So...
Boy, Nuke's pushed up. Hang on a minute. Let's pause. There's a big wave there, and Nuke is with it as Ignite's already down, or rather, it's just a burn of its own. Isma now ready to come on in, but there's no follow-through. Nisqy was a bit low, and remember, he doesn't have flash to get in range.
Yeah, he will be able to kind of keep this wave in a decent spot, though, so... can farm this up, can look to... He should reset now, I'm pretty sure, and then look to try and TP back in, because he hasn't seen Nuke, but now Nuke is going to show, so he cancels the recall. But it does mean that Sheo doesn't actually get to rotate back down to this bottom side. You can see he was considering it to go and steal away a blue buff of his own, but now Nisqy's still in mid lane. Sheo could Q flash over the wall here if they want to.
What takes is another phosphorus bomb, doesn't it? And Nisqy, even though I believe there was a level up there, Sheo's damage should be enough. The wave just out of range of the turret to start things off. Nuke waiting, there it is anyway. Phosphorus bomb out of range, the Valkyrie in, and Nuke with a couple of autos. Sheo tanks it up, Nuke with one more. Isma, flash buckler, come on! A flash poppy slap, and Isma gets the trade.
Ends up being a 1-for-1. Nisqy's going to be able to TP back into lane, so not the biggest loss as he finds himself with the second death so far in this game. But I think Nisqy was initially doing all the right things because he was kind of hovering to the bot side closer to where his jungler was. And when we kind of saw that sequence in play, Isma did a lot of really smart things. Leveraged the prio that he had in top to steal away the blue buff. Then he moved to the bot scuttle crab because he knew that all of his top camps were already taken. Yep. That forces enemy jungler up towards the top side. And then with the flap coming through and Isma being so close, Nisqy thinks, oh, I should be relatively safe. And ultimately, it is a 1-for-1. So I think in this situation, you could argue maybe he should have just based. He had the TP available. He could have gone back to lane. So maybe he ultimately just overstayed in lane. But at the end of the day, not the end of the world.
See, Labrov starting to fish around this mid lane as well. Just starting to set up. Both supports are here. Definitely want to try and punish the fact that you have no summoner spells available. Nisqy's flash going to be up significantly sooner. So if you end up hitting that level 6 for Luon, you can try and, you know, make repeat plays in that mid lane. So that's why we're kind of seeing Labrov hovering here, just to make sure that nothing untoward happens to Nuke.
Well, I mean, the Dragon's starting off. This time BDS are going to kick it and take it first. Grubs are spawning in 30 seconds. I'm surprised, you know, when I heard that stack getting into game, the first Cassiopeia top. That's crazy, no? I mean, we have seen Cassio top, like, what, Season 4, Season 5 as Smolder mid. That's only recent. Nisqy has to get away, and he flaps again, but BDS seem like they're running through mid at the moment. And that first Dragon is going to be good.
Now, when we think back to how this series has played out, it was SK that found themselves with a pretty hefty lead in the early game. And the narrative that Dagda and I had coming in was that we've seen SK with leads like this before. Can they take these leads and close out the game? And the answer to game one was no. As you can see from the goal graph, they found themselves a pretty hefty advantage, but things quite rapidly declined once that single fight ended up being lost in favor of BDS. Now in this early game, we find a relatively even early game.
Good one, Dagda.
Yeah.
Perfect placement.
It's almost like BDS did a bit of a bait switch.
I honestly think that's the best emote. I think right now that's the best emote.
I love it.
Why
It's so cute.
Why are you thinking it is? Surely, no? You don't want to be biased. Well, guess what? You can support your favorite team.
Yes,
But Fanatics 1 looks very close to McDonald's. I don't know if anyone looks at that and thinks, why does that look slightly like a McDonald's hat? They did that on the... Surely they did that on
I'm just going to bring up the BDS and the SK one, so you
there
know
we
to see
go. No
what
bias. Okay. Vedius, what is it? It does, no?
You know what? Do you know why Gwen is my favorite champion?
Why?
Because Gwen did I ask.
Oh no. Oh no.
You know what? I get it. I get the cringe. I understand. When you said that before, you know, that statement reminded me, oh yeah, that's right. That is Betty.
Now, while we were, I don't know what we were doing, Dragon and Herald did end up going down in favor of BDS. Sheo is going to get a bit of revenge as he steals away the reds and now makes his way towards the Krugs. Isma will realize that all of his camps have been stolen. Irrelevant, is he in danger of a dive here? You can see that the matchup is starting to go very favorably.
Good damage from Sheo, or rather on the other end, but Irrelevant gets tagged up with the ult and trying to get out of the turret ranges. Adam at half HP, he's burning down though, and Petrifying Gaze looked away from BDS. Don't have the health bars, but Adam turns it onto Isma. He's got a Twin Fang up as Flash for Flash now grounded for the time being, and another Noxious Blast. Remember, movement speed gained, and as Adam runs away, we look off map to see that Nisqy just got bonked. I think that was a global arrow.
I mean, yeah, Nisqy ends up dying in the mid lane. I mean, the assist coming in from Ice does suggest that the arrow connected. Meanwhile, on the top side of the map, Irrelevant really wanted to go for that second kill, but because of the over, he knew he couldn't afford to chase into the Cassio. A very close back and forth on the top side means that both top laners, oh, actually, it wasn't the top laner. Isma ends up securing that kill. So this is going to be very favorable for Adam as the matchup continues to go in his favor.
I mean, this worked out fantastically. And of course, obviously getting the kill onto Nisqy as well is great, but it just feels like there's a bit of a... Like, SK don't really know how they want to try and set up on the map. Like, yes, you got Sheo who's invading on towards that top side, but they're not really in a position to try and defend. And I think we just got a replay here. Yeah, Ice. This is great, because it's not even from, like, straight up the middle of the lane when you go for the reset. Just decks him. Great shot coming through from Ice.
And I guess, I mean, Luon saw that coming. I don't know if there was any comms through, but I guess the reaction time has to be pretty quick regardless. That's rough for Nisqy. Wasn't able to burn his flash. 0-3-1 start here on the Smolder. And we talk about the scaling element, but it is so far delayed at this point. And for BDS, it's not just mid, is it? Gents, it's also top with Irrelevant now in a bit of trouble as well. He's going to get flailed up. Arctic Assault and permafrosted down. And Adam is just fang after fang after fang. Feels like I'm watching Naruto in the early stages again. Man, Adam just shreds him down.
You know I'm old school, because one of the earliest iterations I remember of this Cassio top was 2015 MSI, when Huni brought it out in top lane, and I think it was against Dyrus. And they had a very similar situation where that Cassio was just running amok on the top side of the map. And it's a situation where a matchup that we've been seeing Rumble prioritized for so long, and teams have shied away from trying to pick counters into it. And it's only recently that we've started to see more teams being willing to pick these matchups as an answer, and Adam coming through with the Cassio showing how effective this Cassio can be.
He had a 9.5-minute Rod of Ages. It's going to stack up so incredibly quickly. He's getting at the same time as the junglers are getting the lockets. Like, this is such an incredibly fast pace for this Cassiopeia. She's going to be unstoppable as this game goes on.
Meanwhile, it's like the early days of eBay on the side of Irrelevant, right? Like garage sale galore. Some boots, a tome, That's about it.
The ring is he found behind a dresser somewhere?
Yeah, that's right. I can sell this. I can use it probably as knockup comes through. We get the keeper's verdict out as Sheo has to flash out and True Shot Run still connects on the back end, but you can see Ice's damage with the arrow delaying onto Luon as well. They might lose their jungler, but what else comes with it? Isma's a little bit low, looking for the re-engage. The Zenith Blade flashed away from. Labrov gets out now with no summoners as Ice steps on up ambitiously, but rightly so. SK find themselves a kill at the end of the day.
Nice job to lean on Rahel and Luon there. Good engage coming through from Luon to set things up, and then Rahel having continuous damage that he's able to continue forward with. Sheo just a little bit too far forward, and it means that he tanks a ton of his health before you can really get the members of BDS in position to deal damage.
The chain CC was just really great from SK, mainly because Luon chose to hold his ultimate until the Sejuani passive fell off, and then so much value was gained from Rahel's cleanse as well, which means that even though he kind of experienced some CC from the Alistar, because the cleanse had already come through, once the Sejuani ultimate connects onto him, it doesn't even last that long. Now, of course, they can't convert it really into any follow-up kills. It does expend Labrov's flash, but ultimately a nice little skirmish that SK were able to find. But I think that Cassio is still a big problem.
I think you're right.
I guess the saving grace is Cassio doesn't have an easy time of getting on top of...
Soulflare up and available. Yes, it is. I mean, here comes the Dragon as well, but Nuke's AoE damage pulls him back a bit. Sheo takes a while to die. There's Mum! But Sheo walking away. One more auto. It's not until Isma gets the buckler flying. Nuke can't stop that one, and SK with another big kill. It goes to the Poppy, but it's still gold in their back pocket.
But it's with SK now having positioning up towards these Void Grubs, so should be able to match the early ones that were taken by BDS. So nicely done by SK. And again, this is kind of what we're talking about, is unlocking Luon to move from that bottom side, but Rahel's just coming in tow every time because they keep catching Sheo in this river.
And while Grubs are being taken after the pick as well, it gives me time to kind of reconnect with what's so exciting about this matchup. I know coming in, we talked a lot about top on the desk as well. I want to bring it back to where we are on the bot side, gents, because Ice and Rahel, both very fed in this game, both with a nice warm start. And I think when you think about both of these rosters, their AD carries are so integral to how their success has been throughout the year.
And for Rahel, it has definitely been a, hey, I'm coming alive in the early stages. He's been great at finding these early leads, getting dual lane kills, finding moments to roam like this to catch people out. And in this one, it ends up paying off dividends because Sheo doesn't realize he's on a ward, hasn't swept out the brush, so Nisqy able to come across, and then it's this front to back that SK are able to set up, focusing down Sheo. Mom over the top as well, just sets up beautifully for that kill with the buckler just to finish things off.
The interesting thing about that play was that SK reset out onto the map as 4, right? Well, I say as 4, I mean, Nisqy was already in mid lane, but typically you'll have the support plus jungle roam mid to provide that extra vision, but Rahel abandoned the bot side of the map to work with his team to provide that extra bit of damage and help secure that kill. The downside is that he did sacrifice a decent number of plates. You can see only 2 remaining on the bot side, and Rahel and Nisqy... Oh,
he's deep. He has to press E. Straight away, the flash comes out as well. To Luon, he wants a hand, but Ice won't let him get away. No, no, no. A kill over to the AD carry. When we're talking about the matchup, it's big as Adam might be caught out. He has to flash away. Isma with his kills big, but Petrifying Gaze buys him time, but not enough. Irrelevant looking to burn him down, but can he give the kill over? Isma has to take it away. That's a shutdown again to the Poppy, who is the carry now.
Nearly able to turn it around, but Isma manages to get the kill. Still though, Nuke on this bottom side will now finish off that tower. You've got a lot of members of BDS in the mid lane as well. They're going to finish off that mid lane structure. Ice.
Flash burn as well. Mum comes through. There's a lockdown with a Glacial Fissure in the back end, and Nisqy now has to play a bit of front to back, but Labrov is isolated, and so is Sheo, but look who's just rocked up. Ice is here again, and he deals mean damage even with the static shiv. And BDS, you know, I'm talking about these push and pull of trades, but BDS, the gold value is 4,000 in their lead with Double Dragon as well. I mean, this game, they're playing the map so well.
Individual mistakes from SK are allowing BDS to just snowball the map.
Yeah.
You've got to remember, so a lot of this is a result of SK return onto the map. They found a pick onto Sheo in the mid lane. The problem is you opened up the bot lane tower, and then after that sequence of events, you kept Rahel mid and sent Nisqy bot. Nisqy isn't strong enough to hold anyone, so they send Nuke down there. They then catch Rahel in mid, and while a play is happening on the top side, you now know that the jungler is there, leaving mid tower and bot tower open. So BDS just kind of assessed the situation in the map. They had good lane assignments, and they immediately, in a very narrow window, found great punishes across the board to extend their goldie now to 4K.
And because SK overextend trying to correct their mistakes, you get the top lane tower as well with Adam. So now Adam gets the reset, come back out on the map, and Rift Herald is up and available. So collapsing in bot wave, now shifting Nuke across because he has that TP. BDS just get to set up for the Rift Herald and toe.
3 out of towers just like that, right, within a minute's time. And as Dagda said, the Herald to boot just means that you have a few options with what you can do. Now, Labrov is quite isolated.
His ulti is available, though. I mean, he's trying to buy time, it looks like. Is he going to pop it? No. I've got to zoom in, don't know. Maybe I need glasses, Jensen.
He does, but
I think he just chose not to waste it.
Don't know why he was there, though.
That is a good
Warding
question.
is going to be my assumption.
Yeah, but like with the rest of your team on top side.
I agree. I'm just, my job is to explain that guy.
He's done his job. Well, I mean, look, it's not like BDS are losing out on this trade, though, right? I mean, bot is going to be, as I use that word, a trade itself, but in a turret, opened up. SK again, showing members, you know, Vedi, you were just talking about this. They commit, they show how many members are committing to the play as well, and BDS on the other side of the map are making their own play.
BDS is a very traditional 2-lane team, where they like to do the 4-1 split, and
what about this? Is this traditional for you?
I mean, it's an easy pick. I think Irrelevant with no flash.
I think Irrelevant's getting split.
That's tradition in my town. Well,
I mean, that's just a great utilization of the TP. Irrelevant thinks that he's safe because he saw top tower going down along with the mid push. He wasn't expecting Nuke and then Labrov to capitalize. And it's one of those situations where typically what would happen is SK, while that top tower is falling, would be investing vision on the bot side to provide that safety for Irrelevant. But because they're kind of behind every single play, he doesn't have any of that vision. He gets caught out. And now it really does feel like SK is falling apart, because when these individual picks start to happen, it just goes to show that the team isn't really focusing on what options their opposition has, and BDS are in full control of the game.
Especially when it's 17 minutes in. You've got next Dragon coming up in 50 seconds. You have all outer turrets down, even the tier 2 and top gone. Like, this is so easy now for BDS to get control of the jungle and deny SK any sort of answer for a lot of these objective takes.
Yeah, and the kills are just so deceptive, because 4 of the 6 are on your Poppy. And that is not where you want those kills.
Yeah.
Your mid laner is 0-3. He is 2,000 gold behind his laner position. In the top side of the map, you're 2.4k gold behind. It's the solo lanes are struggling. And between the AD carries, sure, this Ezreal is definitely not in a weak spot, especially with the Muramana being about to be complete. But yeah, I'm concerned for SK about how they're actually going to be able to execute in these upcoming fights.
And remember, again, the winner of this series does have to go up against G2 and GX. That's going to be a fight itself as well, isn't it? But while we hover on that thought for the time being, I mean, for BDS, a great position, a good gold lead, set up for the 3rd Dragon here, where SK can't even walk into the river right now out of fear of death, and that's just going to be sole point. SK coming late to the party.
Yeah, they can't really get in. Labrov's playing bouncer here. Does get a decent amount of damage with the Ezreal ults, but Irrelevant off the side. BDS maybe biting off a bit more than they can chew here.
Sheo ultis into Isma, the arrow on the back end. There's multiple targets. Isma, though, separates 2, but Adam has already killed Luon. Adam might be low. That could change things here. Petrifying Gaze was a bit of a whiff, and I think Medusa needs to adjust the angle. As BDS hover yet again, thinking on the outskirts of the fight, but SK already too far away, and the Dragon's done. Luon's dead. That's still a BDS win.
Look at how confident BDS are, though. When you look at SK, they just feel so weak right now at this point in the game. And so that BDS just say, you know what, we'll just fight. We have easy engage tools. We can start the fights whenever we want. They'll take the pick and they'll be happy with it. It reduces the siege on the mid lane tower. They deny the wave from coming through. And again, it's 4-0 in towers, gentlemen. With 3 dragons to 0, the grubs were equalized thanks to SK finding that single pick, but SK, they're kind of relying on the game stalling out. Maybe this Smolder can get to a point where it becomes this absolutely late game terror, but yeah, their options are dwindling fast.
I mean, you know, Corki's still in the mix as well. We know that Cassiopeia is always going to be ahead. Rylai's coming up next, as you can see in the build path. That Rod of Ages that Dagda was looking at mightily, as, by the way, Rylai's just finished, is now at 10 stacks, Dagda. So level 14, he's got a 2-level lead because he just got that passive leveled up an extra. Adam is strong, and it is really nice to see when also, remember, coming into the series, we're like, man, Irrelevant stats are so good. He's been looking like one of the best top laners, and Adam's been slumping, and like we've been questioning, what does his top laner bring? Bro, this series, Adam has been bringing a lot.
Yeah, I think the problem for Irrelevant is that SK just haven't really been setting up for him to have these big moments, right?
That's very
like
fair
the team
too.
fight, Luon whiffs the Rel ult in the last one. Luon whiffs the ultimate here. Irrelevant can't really get the ultimate he needs, and he's had some decent ultimates like now.
Isma with all the gold, by the way, and the tanky stats is just going to die. And Luon, again, as you said, not a great showing. A double kill picked up instantly, and here's Labrov into the back line. He headbutt pulverized and sets it up to dunk it down. BDS with 3, and SK are once again on the ground.
They tested BDS, and I feel like BDS passed with flying colors. Isma gets absolutely destroyed on the front line, and it leaves open this Baron for BDS is taking.
Well, Irrelevant would show that he is still a good top laner. What Dagda was saying, if he can 2v5 here, but on the back end, Labrov is zoning out, and Baron's gone, even with the bars blinking in fate. Irrelevant and Nisqy can't do anything to stop it. Baron goes down, and it's almost a 10k gold lead.
And it's heartbreaking because Nisqy's 4 stacks away from that 225, which would give him the execute. I mean, look how low BDS were in that pit. That maybe could have been the deciding factor, but unfortunately not able to get it. And it's then when you come into this fight, again, Luon, Sheo had already gone for the dash away, so the solar flare goes wide. And then choke points like this are great for Rahel to try and fight in, but where's the rest of them? Rahel was trying to push in mid. It means that you can't really do anything. BDS finish off one. Labrov had a great flank there, and I love this from Labrov as well. Head buckets him back, but holds on to having that stun, so even if Rahel tries to arcane shift back out, Labrov can always follow him as well. So just nicely orchestrated there by BDS.
Red Bull Baron power play kicks off, and we're already talking about how they were playing the map. I'm interested to see how BDS start knocking down these pins, because bot seems to be the focus, mid getting pushed in, top's going to bounce back and set up for that inhib turret wave as well. And SK's defense here, once again, feels like it's lacking.
I mean, what does SK even do? Like, I genuinely think the problem is the Sejuani Maokai. Like, 2 games in a row now, I feel like Isma's jungle pick just hasn't given them the freedom to kind of get the fights that they were looking for, you know? And I think that the Sejuani Maokai priority from BDS has just worked wonders for them, especially once you enter this mid game where SK seems committed to try and fight BDS around these neutrals. So BDS, they secure the tier 2 in mids, they set their sights on the tier 2 in bots, and they're looking to bring themselves to 2-0 in this series.
Going to continue. I mean, Sheo's right in behind them here. SK are completely split.
Solar Flare used onto Adam. It sets up with the equalizer. At least this time it lands. But as you said, SK in 2 different places. BDS, you could say the same as Adam has the flashback, but the reposition is just fine. He hits Conqueror and new kid's range. SK is sent away, in the turret still goes down.
SK were lucky Isma got a great ultimate off there, because otherwise that could have been a disaster.
Yep.
The tower goes down, but I think it was Nuka got booted out of the fight, so he wasn't really in a position to try and follow up on a lot of that engage, but still, the tower goes down. Splashes were burnt on towards Adam, so maybe you can try and punish that in a fight, but 10 seconds on Soul, BDS back out of the map faster. It's not looking good for SK.
I agree.
Well,
You pointed at me and I didn't. Yeah.
it's frustrating as reaching out to Vedius the other day. There's BDS. I mean, look, again, limiting the options of what SK can do. Stunned, grounded, please let me move.
He's trying to stay out of range of the E, and believe it or not, it worked, which is the craziest thing.
Yeah. It was like a small pixel against that wall that I guess that made it work. Rahel kites back as well. Nuke's damage not to be frothed at, or rather frowned at. He's definitely frothing. He's 3 items, and man, that's like a cappuccino if I've ever seen one. BDS push in through bot, and this series that we were hyping up, this series that we thought could be massive, is falling on its head. Game 1, a throwaway from SK. Game 2, an outplay, an early first blood, and BDS running the map. It is a positive look at BDS, though, all things considered, that we are finally seeing BDS coming back into some light after that Fnatic series.
But it's also, we've seen BDS go for late game scaling game 1, and SK end up throwing, BDS punish, they win the game. This is a game where BDS get the early lead, play through it cleanly, and SK don't really get a look back in. So now, if you're looking at a game number 3, if BDS can close this out, what do you go for as SK? How do you try and respond? Both sides of the coin haven't worked out in your favor.
Give me coins, Betty.
I mean, my take is you deny both Sejuani and Maokai.
Yep.
Because I feel like that they've, like, Sheo has had a great series. right? It just in terms of his decision making and what he's been doing this game, he was a lot more focused on early game ganks. In the previous game, it was more about just, you know, weathering the storm, but his Maokai play around objectives was really where you saw the value of the champion. And I think that that's the area that needs to be reevaluated individually. I think that Nisqy didn't obviously have the great game. He kind of got set behind early. But yeah, I still also don't really understand the value of Smolder in this composition. Obviously, it's going to look that way because of the deficit that SK find themselves in, and he was the target that felt so much pain in the early game. So, but yeah, it would definitely be disappointing for SK to finish their year like this. I feel like that the roster has shown us so many high moments throughout summer especially. They finished first in the regular season. And I'm hoping that we do get to see more. I'm hoping that what looks to be a clean end for BDS will give SK the opportunity to rethink.
Well, he's dead. Dagda, your turn.
But I do think it's nice to see a step back up from BDS, because there was a lot of question marks in summer playoffs. But it looks like the time off has done them well, kind of got themselves back onto the horse. The team fighting has been clean. The objective setup has been significantly better. They're not getting caught out overextended in side lanes. This feels like a step back towards the form we expected of BDS in summer.
It's like going to a 10-year-old's birthday party. All smiles here. That's what BDS are, right? There's a jumping castle. You get cake. You get food. Everyone's happy. No one can complain. That's the situation of BDS right now. SK is like, I don't know. Not going. You're not invited to the party, Dagda. That's all I've got on the other side. But it's not you personally, because I would always invite you. As the arrow flies through, Nisqy tagged out in the back end, and again, Petrifying Gaze just locks him in place. He can't do anything. Zenith Blade was dodged by Adam, who is slithering his way through the fight. Yes, he's poked out. Yes, he's close to dying, but the Archangels shields him up. BDS getting low, but Adam's ready to TP and go, go, go. SK, what have you got for the rest of this series? Because our first place team in the regular season of summer is getting destroyed, pulled apart, torn to pieces, and BDS on a run, ready to face the winner of GX and G2. That's how this series feels as we got a match point with a very unlocked BDS.
They're going to have some fun with SK. They're going to pick them apart on the Nexus, but that will be a very clean performance from BDS. From start to finish, they kept the pressure on. And while there were moments where SK was able to find a pick here or there, BDS just played the map better. They continued to gain objective after objective, and they really gave SK zero room to move.
And it's tough because it feels like there's so many things here for BDS that worked out well. Ice on your screen is Ashe, beautiful. Betty already highlighted the jungles. Game 3, you need to find some way to break it.
Well, as SK is gathering their strength to make a sweep and fight for their spot in Munich, we can now check in with Nisqy to see how he feels about the possibility of playing on the big stage. If, of course, they can reverse sweep.
I think SK Gaming will win in Munich. That would be the underdog story. I don't think G2 will take it home this time. I think it will be SK or Fnatic. I usually perform better on big stages because there's more pressure, but I feel like I'm lucky that I've played on lots of stages before, in NA, in EU, in Korea, like wherever. So when you go into a big stage, it's like, wow, I'm gonna play League, like what I'm doing for so long in front of like 10,000 people. But then once you go on stage, you actually see them and then you're amazed. The year has been long. Season finals is when it matters the most because that's when you go to Worlds, right? It's the first time I'm in a team where I'm the veteran and I have rookies around me and I kind of build project in some ways. Going to Munich will be for sure one of our goals because that also means you go to Worlds. So yeah, I'm excited to go to Munich and I hope we make it.
Even the biggest champ needs a break.
Laure!
Red Bull gives you wings.
Hey, shouldn't you be on stage right now?
Hey, you got a pick. Tom Kent? What? I was not expecting this.
And a crazy off-meta pick that secured you the win. How did you come up with it?
I just listened to my gut.